A Farm Journal broadcast. This is AgDay.
Coming up today on AgDay.
It's unreal. It's just like they said, so beautiful.
Beauty in the middle of nowhere that's drawing hundreds of people.
The president is very focused on what's happening in farm country, as you know well.
The U.S. Trade Representative gets grilled on Capitol Hill when it comes to trade. And will E15 be available in time for the summer driving season? It could take a big step towards reality.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Clinton is on assignment. We want to get right to the latest on the weather and a powerful storm that's bringing rain, snow, and high winds and blizzard conditions to portions of the plains. Meteorologist Cindy Clausen joins us. Cindy, this is not good news for producers in the middle of calving season.
Yeah, that's right, Betsy. This is going to be a strong storm, a very complicated storm. There's a lot of moving elements and just a lot going on. I wanted to show you first our national map, but kind of without all the fronts and everything, so you can see the isobars. Those are those funny squiggly lines. Those are lines of equal pressure, and those, when those are really close together, it shows how windy it is. But I also wanted you to see where all of the rain and snow is, especially over in Colorado, into Wyoming, and then getting into parts of the Dakotas, especially the western areas, and everything just expanding. Here is tonight, and you can see the eastern edge of the storm bringing showers and thunderstorms, but at the backside is where we really see that wind. And look how closely packed together those isobars are, and we're going to see some pretty heavy snowfall, especially in the Dakotas and then heading into Minnesota as well. Now, as far as the winds, check this out. So this morning, nothing looks too bad, but we get into the afternoon, look towards Amarillo as we get those winds. These are sustained winds into the low 40s with gusts, of course, a lot higher than that. Then watch up towards Rapid City as we get into the overnight hours as they get into the 40s. And of course, you're going to have a lot of snow with that, so that's why there's a blizzard warning for much of South Dakota. Now, as far as the snowfall estimate, our model is really putting that bullseye right where that low pressure will be tracking. You can see southeastern part of Wyoming into northwestern Nebraska, much of South Dakota, into the eastern part of North Dakota as well. And these are areas that are going to get well over a foot of snow. You factor in that wind, it's going to be blowing around. It is not a good situation there. On the south side of the front, as that moves through parts of the southern plains and into the Gulf Coast states, we're going to be looking at the potential for some strong to severe storms there as well. So it's a very complicated and powerful system, and we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up in just a few minutes. Betsy.
Thanks, Cindy. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer in the hot seat on Capitol Hill as lawmakers look for answers when it comes to tariffs and trade progress. He spoke before the U.S. Senate Finance Committee.
Is it your intent to make sure you see evidence of changes on the ground before you lift the tariffs?
Lighthizer reluctant to answer publicly about that part of the negotiation process with China.
In terms of where we are on the specific tariffs, that's a matter of negotiation. And once again, I'm happy to talk to you about it.
We're telling lawmakers an endpoint to a potential trade deal with China is near, but he's unable to predict success with the country. However, Lighthizer highlighting the message of President Trump's attention to farm country.
The president is very focused on what's happening in farm country, as you know well.
Earlier in the week, President Trump laying out his proposed budget for 2020, proposing multiple cuts to farm country, with criticism coming from both sides of the political aisle.
I just want to say that the budget came out yesterday is a 31% cut in farm bill programs for rural America that was overwhelmingly supported by the Senate, plus a 15% cut to the USDA to be able to enforce and provide the farm bill programs.
Would the Senator yield on that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
We're not cutting crop insurance. Get a hold of the budget.
Which is in the president's budget.
We are not cutting crop insurance to the degree they say it's reform. It's not. We've got the program.
Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue reacting to the proposed budget, saying, quote, USDA will actively do its part in reducing federal spending. As we've been telling you, the USDA is already working on budget cuts, but relocating the Economic Research Service and the National Institute of Food and Agriculture out of Washington. Now the department has released a list of 136 places that have expressed interest in becoming the new home of those departments. The places are in 35 states. You're looking at that list of interested places on your screen. USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue says the relocation will help ensure the agency is the most effective, efficient, and customer-focused agency in the federal government. It's not known when the list will be pared down and a decision will be made. We have the full list on our website. Just head to agday.com. The topic of trade is one close to home in farm country. While views differ, I talked to one farmer who says trade is impacting major marketing decisions he's making for his operation.
If we didn't forward contract our grain, that what we were producing last year in 2018, we would have lost over $500,000 in income. Because we forward contracted and took advantage of those tools in the springtime when the prices were up, we were able to maintain our income.
There's still no plans yet for President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping to meet and finalize a trade deal. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders also speaking about trade negotiations, saying she was unaware of any plan for the two to even speak by phone, but she says the negotiations are ongoing.
We're continuing in negotiations with China. When we have an announcement for the two leaders to sit down, we'll certainly let you know.
And what would you say to the concerns by the Chinese that the president's an unreliable negotiating partner after the talks with North Korea broke down and he walked away?
I would say that's absurd. The president's going to make a deal if it's a good deal. He's going to make a deal if it's in the best interest of America. And if he doesn't feel like it's a good deal, it's not worth just signing a piece of paper.
We're tracking this right now. E15 year-round is one step closer to reality. The EPA is advancing a plan that would get the biofuel in the market in time for the summer driving season. It would also place trading restrictions on credits that refiners use to prove they are using the biofuel. The agency saying it will take public comments on the proposal. It plans to hold a public hearing on Friday, March 29th. Administration officials saying they hope to finalize it all before June 1st. You'll remember President Trump made a promise to Midwest farmers last year to have E15 in time for the summer driving season. And just look at this. A grain bin collapsed Monday in LaGrange, Missouri. That's in the northeast part of the state. This drone video shared with us by AgDay affiliate WGEM, a fire chief saying there was a catastrophic failure of the 850,000 bushel grain bin that was holding corn. Investigators saying crews were working on one side of the bin when it suddenly split, but it's not known what caused it to split. No one was injured. It spilled onto the main road of the town, forcing drivers to find another way. Crews say the cleanup could take weeks. We check in on farm equipment sales so far this season. And later, something beautiful is blooming in California, something that hasn't been seen in years, coming up in the country.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
Tuesday was a big day for wheat at the markets as it climbed into the double digits, possibly on some buyers looking for bargains. Here's more now from the floor of the CME.
A second factor for the corn market is unconfirmed reports on Friday that China is considering annual purchases of about 7 million tons of corn and about 3 million tons of ethanol from the U.S. Keep in mind, in order to produce that much ethanol, that would take about 4.5 weeks of production in the U.S. to get that just that one export market going to China. China's breeding herd was down 15% in January. So if pork production is down 15% in China for the second half of the year, they may need to import 1.54 billion pounds per month to replace that. If the U.S. gets 25% of that business, that would amount to 385 million pounds per month as we get into the second half of the year. Thank you.
U.S. sales of ag equipment continuing to do well. That's according to the February report from the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. It reports U.S. sales of four-wheel drive tractors rose 29.5% compared to last year. Sales of self-propelled combines grew 21.5%. The group's senior vice president says it's encouraged to hear USDA estimates that net farm income is expected to increase slightly this year. It also hopes the new farm bill will provide more certainty for farmers as they plan ahead, but are concerned about retaliatory tariffs and the lack of trade agreements. But short-term interest rates may be weighing on producers' minds as they look to buy new equipment. Tyne Morgan has more in today's analysis from the road.
Here now with Tommy Grossafi of Advanced Trading. Tommy, interest rates, something we really watched closely in 2018. Now here we sit in 2019. Kind of a little different story panning out where you have long-term interest rates. Those rates are coming down, yet short-term interest rates are not budging.
Yeah, so you got your short-term interest rates high. If you went and bought a house and financed it for 30 years, you could probably get under 5% again. But for farmers who need an incredible amount of cash for a short amount of time, 6 months a year, short-term interest rates are high. So real operating notes, and I talked about it last night with a great group of farmers. If your credit's good, you're at like 5.5, 5 3/4. Starting to hear guys borrow money at 7% because they're just a little tight on funds. So you can go buy a home and finance it for 30 years at 5%. But if you need a lot of money now, a couple $1 million to operate for the short term to get through this season, it's going to be expensive. And when you look at the 10-year note trading at the Board of Trade, I think it's trading at 2.75 yield today. That's historically a really low yield, but the short end of the curve came up, and that's called your yield curve. And it's in play, and it's really tiny. I think farmers are just starting to realize the pain it's causing. And what I mean by that is if you hold grain for an extra 6 months thinking you're catching that carry and the flat price doesn't go up, really all that carry you caught, you just threw away in high interest rates. And they can go higher, but we were low for so long that last night in the farmer meeting, a group of guys said, you know what, you're right, that this money's costing us a lot. We need to move grain faster and maybe own it a little bit on paper, which we call a future call. And it's real. I mean, every American farmer who's borrowed money, their cost of borrowing money has doubled over the last 3 years.
So what can you do at this point if you do need cash right now? I mean, is it, you know, and you need to move some grain in order to get that cash?
Well, farmers are going to sell grain below their cost of production. I know everyone's running around saying you need to know your cost of production, but at some point, if you want to sell grain before you plant, you're going to have to sell it and take that loss. There were some subsidies from the government, bean payments, corn payments, wheat payments, but probably the best of times to market grain, if you have to market in the next few weeks, have passed you. The best time to market grain was 6 months ago. As they say here in North Dakota, summer bodies are made during the winter. So decisions made last year are affecting people today.
All right, Tommy, thank you so much for joining us. Let's take a quick break and then we'll have a check of weather right here on Ag Day.
Interested in spending a day with a trader? Call Tommy Grossafi at 800-664-4383.
Spray for as low as $3 an acre with a new Apache sprayer. Talk to your local Apache dealer or run the numbers at apachesprayers.com/return.
Welcome back to Ag Day with meteorologist Cindy Clausen. Cindy, man, you have to feel a little bit worried about some of those ranchers, especially when they are calving and this winter storm is here for them. But when you look at the root zone moisture map, are there any benefits to what we are seeing with some snowfall?
Yeah, you know, that's the one thing that I've noticed over the past few weeks is that with all the snow, especially in the high plains, we've really kind of been seeing that drought area and the dryness really kind of tick away. And even in California, you notice that as well. In fact, a lot of areas in the western part of the country have been getting a little bit better, improved moisture. Getting a little dry, though, in the far Pacific Northwest. A little bit dry here in parts of southwestern Texas and in Florida. Most of the other areas are fairly similar to what we've seen over the past week. All right, let's take a look at that same map, though, but this time with the fronts, and they're complicated. That's just why I wanted to leave it off last time, so you can kind of see more of where the moisture was going to be. But as we head through the day today, we're going to see that low pressure system moving into the central and northern plains. All along this cold front, we're going to be seeing showers and some thunderstorms, some of which could be strong or severe, especially on the southern flank of that. It's going to be snow and very heavy snow in parts of Wyoming into northwestern Nebraska, South Dakota, and again, very windy conditions, and that's why there are blizzard warnings up in that region. Heading into the overnight hours, everything moves on off to the east. That excess of heavy snow is going to now be moving into parts of North Dakota into parts of Minnesota as well. Showers and thunderstorms moving into the Gulf Coast states. Through the day on Thursday, you can see where that low pressure system is moving. Now the winds may it's starting to kind of weaken just a little bit, but it'll still be pretty windy in a lot of the Great Lakes area. We're still going to see that chance for showers and thunderstorms along that cold front, now moving through the central Gulf states into the southeast, while high pressure moves into the west. We already showed you the snowfall, but when you look at the liquid equivalent, it's going to be quite a bit, with a lot of areas over 2 inches of liquid equivalent. That's a lot of snow, and of course this is all rain here, but you can see some very heavy rain along that cold front. Temperature wise, we are looking at 70s in the southeastern United States, some 20s and 30s off into the northwest, and as we get into the overnight hours, temperatures don't cool down too much, only in the 20s in some of these areas that have been so bitterly cold this winter. 50s, 60s, 70s, all that warm air really moves on off into the east, and then we're going to see our jet stream. As we see that trough in the western United States, the eastern United States is going to see that trough moving into the Great Lakes system. We're still looking at a warm up in the western United States as we get into the weekend and into early next week. That's your national forecast. Now let's check on the weather where you live. South Fork, Colorado, breezy with snow showers and a high of 38 degrees. White River, South Dakota, blizzard warning with ice in the morning turning to snow in the afternoon, 33 for your high. Salem, Illinois, rain especially late, high of 68.
Could GMO salmon soon be coming to the grocery aisle? We have an update. And we update you on exports when it comes to American oranges and tangerines next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Genetically modified salmon may still face choppy water before getting to a store near you. U.S. regulators giving the green light to GM salmon to grow about twice as fast as normal. But the fish may still face legal challenges before being sold domestically. The Food and Drug Administration has lifted an alert that prevented Massachusetts-based Aqua Bounty from importing its salmon eggs to its Indiana growing facility. The agency noted the salmon has already undergone safety reviews and that the fish will be required to be labeled as bioengineered. This despite a pending lawsuit by a coalition of consumer, environmental, and fishing groups challenging the FDA's past approval of the salmon. Some losses are being reported for U.S. orange and tangerine exports. The Packer reporting that exports suffered a 2% decline in value and a 14% drop in volume last year. The top market for U.S. oranges and tangerines was South Korea, but volume to South Korea was also down 29%. Other top destinations were Canada, Japan, Hong Kong, and China. The news is better for avocados. The U.S. total imports were up 15% in 2018. But volume was down 11%. The USDA reports Mexico accounted for 87% of total volume of those imports to the U.S. Peru was the second leading supplier, followed by Chile. Too much rain, a big problem in parts of California, but in other parts, it's creating something pretty spectacular that hasn't been seen in years. Next. All that rain has caused problems in California, but it's also painting Southern California's deserts in a beautiful wave of color. This year's so-called super bloom of wildflowers is shaping up to be among the best ever. Just look at what there is to see in the Anza-Borrego Desert State Park. The park is glowing with purple and yellow wildflowers across its 600,000 acres. There are blooming verbenas, desert sunflowers, and dune primrose, with even more to come.
My buddy told me that super bloom was going on. He said it was more beautiful in 2017, so I came out here with a friend, my girlfriend, and we are checking it out. And it's unreal. It's just like they said, so beautiful. I just think it's crazy how, a place that could be so desolate and dry forever can look like this, every once in a while. I don't know, pretty cool to me, out of its element, so it's nice.
I'm sure if we had access to the satellite images that are being taken right now, you probably could even see them from space, that the color is that pronounced.
Steady rainfall over the past several months in the desert has created the optimal environment for the yearly bloom of flowers, allowing them to flourish even more than previous years. The views are only expected to get better in the coming weeks as the California poppy comes into full bloom, painting the landscape orange. Well, that's all the time we have this morning. We're glad you tuned in. For all of us here at AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Have a great day.